Hey, so the year of 2022 has ended, and it is now into the year of 2023. So far, the year 2023 is not looking great for one of my hobbies. I'm looking at you, D&D. You fucked up, but I am gonna talk about instead 2022. Yes, it is finally time to look back on the year 2022's reading log. And gotta say, I have been somewhat surprised, but mostly not. This is my second year doing this Manga Log, so I now have data to look back on. By that I mean actual numbers to look back on. And I will say, I do think I've mellowed out in the amount of reading I did between 2021 and 2022. So let's get into what I read in 2023, the number wise. I'm not going to go through everything, or else I'll be here for several hours. So starting off, I read a grand total of 526 volumes of manga, which, I'll get into the comparisons later, but that's pretty good. I have finished or read 6 comics, which, I do want to read more comics, but it is what it is. I have finished 32, series, so there is that. Which I feel like I should try to do more, but some of the series that I'm reading are ongoing and not already finished, so I can't really catch up. There are some that I will get into. But I have also started 83 series, which is why I'm now double stacking my bookshelves. I need to move at some point, but not anytime soon. So, all in all, it was a little bit different than last year number-wise. I think, let me just go back. I'm not going to say I think. I will know. So, all in all, I think those are respectable numbers, but, might as well go back and see how the numbers look comparably to December of, 2021, the beginning of last year in January when, finished up December and actually look. So, in the year of 2022, comparison-wise, I read 566 volumes, like I said in the last time I did this. So that is a number of roughly I read 40 manga less. Now then, I think based off of what it is number wise, most of the months that I read in 2021, there we go, I mostly read, especially early on, like 70, 60, those types. So that's probably where the 40 extra volumes that I read in 2021 were compared in 2022, where I was more consistent throughout the year of reading manga, with numbers being 40s, 39s, 45s, and the most that I read was 61 volumes, which is not comparable to 21, where I read 78 in January of that year. So comparison wise, mellowed out a bit more, but read still consistently about the same. Just didn't have high peaks like I did in 21. So there is that. Comparably, I read more volumes of comics, being that I only read 4 in 21 compared to the 6 in 2022, which again is not much. I do at some point want to read more. There are several series that I would like to read. I would love to go back to The Walking Dead at some point. I read that in high school, and I think it was still ongoing at the time and might be finished now, but haven't gotten around to actually getting those volumes and reading them. And there's also other comic series that I would love to read that are like Invincible, the Hellboy comics, Hellraiser, Hellblazer. Those are several different comic series that I would like to get, but I just do not have time with the amount of manga that I read. Finished wise, I finished more series, with 24 being 21 in the year 2021, and then, like I said, 32. So I read and finished like 8 more series. So, that's pretty good. There were a few series that finished up, and then also in that number probably there are the single volume series that are just one that finished up, and it's all good. There were a few series that I read that finished up that I was able to get, like Doro. I'm pretty sure I finished that up in 2022. I remember finishing it up because I made the video last year about me reviewing it. So yeah, there are definitely some series that I would love to finish up that I know that I should, and there's other series that I need to catch up on. It is quite difficult after a while because I am also trying to figure out a new place. This apartment sucks already, but I need to save more money to buy a house at some point. And unfortunately, where I live, and I think most of the United States, the down payment I've looked at is like $30,000. So it will be some time before I'm able to buy a house. Hopefully, I can get my savings up pretty fast, but it's difficult nonetheless. So I will probably be spending less money on manga in this year, but I'll see what happens. But it is pretty similar, with me only starting 3 less series in last year compared to 21. 86 compared to 83. So all in all, pretty comparable. I think there's not too many stark differences between one year and the next, with mostly it being that I had a more straight line with less peaks and valleys from 2021. So all in all, it was a pretty good year for reading wise. There are several other things that I probably should keep track of, but I don't know if I might decide to also put manhwa in its own separate category now that I'm reading more manhwa. But at the same time, manhwa and manga are relatively, I buy them at the same pace, so it'd be a little bit more confusing. But needless to say, when I count my manga volumes, I also count manhwa in that. And if there's any manhwa that you want me to talk about, I will. I read a bunch because I have some free time at work during breaks and all that. So all in all, I say that it was a pretty good year for reading. All in all, didn't do anything too crazy, but I will also say that last year I did have several weeks that I didn't read just because of one mental shenanigans where I was just like didn't have the motivation to read, or I was off doing other things. Like there was specifically in 2021 when I went to go to Disney with my family, but in this last year, 2022, I had the wedding with my sister and then another wedding with my friend that I've known for a very long time. So all in all, the amount of time that I didn't have, spending here in this apartment was slightly lower, but at the same time, I don't think it really changed much, because even in those 2 months, July and December, where I was not here for about a week, I still read roughly the same amount of manga, being 40s, 49s, 45s, around that range. So I think it really just depends on my also mental state when I start reading. Some volumes and series that I read really drain me out, that I've realized now that I'm actually writing them down and keeping track. There are some series like Blood on the Tracks that I read sometimes. Like, some volumes hit harder than others, and I'm just like, oh, and then other series I can just read back to back to back, but even then I get a slight burnout, which is one of the reasons why I kind of like my buy random volumes at points. Sure, it causes a collected clusterfuck, if you will, of a random series in random places, but I know where they are, and it's pretty solid. Also, like, again, most of the time, I don't think I've changed much in the days that I read. Mostly, especially in 2022, last year, I started playing D&D, which, again, they really fucked up at the beginning of this year. But I usually play that on a Wednesday, and as a result, I don't have any time to read on a Wednesday, which, means that there's one less day I'm going to read, and obviously Thursday I'm usually watching Critical Role, and Friday I get home from work after working a full week and not really wanting to do anything besides maybe finish watching Critical Role or just playing a video game and not worrying about anything. So all in all, like, I haven't really changed my reading habits too much or too drastically, and it's more like I've mellowed out. Probably I will have some months that I read more and then other months that I read less. It really just depends on how, I'm feeling mentally or physically. Work has actually started to stabilize. I've talked about my work at points where I am in a lighting production company, so live shows and the like. And we are finally getting a lot of work, but now that we are sort of stabilizing, we are getting to the point where it's getting back to the normal flow. We still have a lot of work, but we now have it more regularly paced instead of go, 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 So there is also that I feel as though it is still very solidly a good year of manga reading. There are several series that I absolutely enjoyed and would love to continue. I finally finished Dorohedoro. Like I said, it was very good, and at some point I will reread it and maybe get a good approximation about how I feel on it. I really stepped up on reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure last year, so there is also that. And I'll probably fully commit to that as well. Several other series that I definitely enjoyed a lot that I'm happy that I got around to reading. What other ones? I could just look behind me. There are that one shelf that's at my head level. That's mostly the newer stuff that I read in the last couple of months. There's obviously the Boys on Run was a very good shorter series that I quite thoroughly enjoyed. Would highly recommend. Let's see. Record of Ragnarok is a great shut off my brain to read battle manga series that I started that I heard a lot about before reading it. And there's several others that I could definitely speak about. And all in all, very solid. There are several series that I'm reading right now that are going to be ending soon. There's also several more that I started up because I was just really intrigued. I definitely do have a problem with buying series. It's I think it's fine, but at the same time, I just love reading stories and seeing how they play out, which can be seen as a problem, but I also see it as a lovely time. So yeah, all in all, I hope the rest of 2023 goes well. Again, I will make a video about the whole fucking Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons thing, but right now other situations are good. Manga wise, it's all good. There are several other factors of life, but as long as I can continue reading manga, I think I'll be fine. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this very rambly video and you have a lovely time in the new year. Stay safe out there. Hopefully everything doesn't come crashing down. We don't have nuclear fallout. We don't have another pandemic. Like, all I hope is that we all have a good time. Good time reading. Good time playing games. Try out Pathfinder, because they're not owned by a soulless corporation. So, yeah. Stay safe out there. Read a bunch of manga. And, yeah, that's about it. Bye.